In this lesson, we're going to look at 5 songs that only use 2 chords each. Now I think these are the best types of songs to get started with on guitar because you're not having to think about changing between loads of different chords, you're not having to change to different progressions in different sections of the song or anything like that. You can just focus on nailing that chord change, keeping your strumming in time and enjoying playing along with the song. I've ordered these songs from what I consider to be the easiest to the most difficult, but really there's nothing too difficult in any of these songs. You should find them all pretty achievable if you followed the material in the first series of the beginner's course. If there is anything specific that you're struggling with, whether it be related to the chords or the rhythm, just have a look back at that first series and recap and you should be absolutely fine. So let's get stuck in and learn some songs. The first song we're going to take a look at is called Silence is Easy by a band called Starsailor. Now this is not the most popular song on the list, but it's normally the first one that I teach my students because it's such a perfect first song on guitar. The chords and the rhythm are so simple that they make it super easy to just dive in and jam along with the track straight away, so that's why we're starting with this one. So to get started with Silence is Easy, you need 2 chords which are E major and A major, and it's going to be 2 bars on each chord. So we're going to start with E chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then to A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how as I'm changing between the chords, the thumb is disappearing around the back for the E chord, then coming over and muting the bottom string for the A chord because we don't want to hear the low E string in the A chord. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So you should be able to hear where the chords change in the song and start with just single strums on each bar to make sure that your chord changes are matching up, and then it's time to put in the rhythm. As I said, this one is super simple. We're just going to be doing downstrummed 8th notes. Really it's more of a piano song than a guitar song, this one, but that's fine, you can still play the same chords, but it tends to be that you can hear more of the piano player's left hand, which is the lower notes. So if we just do the downstrums, we're only catching the bottom strings, which kind of helps us mimic that a little bit more. So if we put the downstrummed 8th notes in, we're going to start with the E chord and have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and A and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and E 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you should hear straight away how that matches up with the sound of the track. Now one final thing that you can throw in to give it that extra little bit of character is a backbeat accent. So remember the backbeat is on beats 2 and beats 4. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about here, go back and have a look at the rhythm lessons from the first series and that will explain everything. But if we put that backbeat accent in, we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And it really is that simple. You can play them same chords and that same rhythm along to the whole song and just have a little bit of fun playing along with the original track. So that is your first song of the day. The next song we're going to take a look at is one that everyone will recognise. It's Dance the Night Away by the Mavericks. Super catchy this one, and we're going to be introducing a couple of new elements. We're going to have the capo, we're going to throw some up strums in, so let's dive in and take a look. So for Dance the Night Away, you can see that I've got the capo on the 2nd fret, so your chord shapes are going to be exactly the same, but you're going to play them in reference to the capo, and the 2 chords in this one are going to be D major and A major. So you should hear that they match up with the song if you've got the just wanna dance the night away with senoritas who can sway. So just 1 bar per chord on this one, so slightly quicker changes than the last song. To put the strumming in, we're going to be doing all the down and the up strums in 8th note rhythm. So we're going to have... So not a complex strumming pattern or anything like that, but if you do want to give it an extra little kick and a bit more energy, try putting in the backbeat accents on this one. It's a little bit more difficult because you're mixing it in with the down and the up strums, but try and get that feel, and this is what you'll end up with. Just helps edge it a little bit closer to the sound of the original track, but that is how you play Dance the Night Away. Next, we're going to be looking at Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Again, this is a super popular song, really nice vibe for just strumming along to this one. Again, we're going to be taking it up a notch by adding a little bit more complexity with the strumming, so let's dive in and take a look. So for Dreams, we've now got the capo on the 3rd fret, and the 2 chords we're going to be using are D chord and E chord. Now the knack for changing between these 2 chords is to actually keep the first finger on the string and just slide it forwards and backwards to help align the fingers with the next chord. So it starts on the 2nd fret for the D chord, other fingers come off, slide back, and then put your fingers in place for the E chord. Take them off, slide up, D chord, take them off, slide back, E chord. Just helps smoothen that transition a little bit. Remember, when it comes to thumb muting on the D chord, eventually you're going to want the thumb to mute the bottom 2 strings. So when you strum, you're only hearing the top 4. But when you're first getting started, it's okay to just mute the bottom string. The A string doesn't sound too bad in a D chord, and it can be quite difficult to get it over and mute them bottom 2 strings properly. But the lower E string really doesn't sound good in a D chord, so try and make sure you at least have that one muted. But when you do move to the full E chord, make sure that the thumb disappears around the back and you're leaving that bottom string open, because that is going to be the root note of your E chord. Rhythm-wise, once you've got the chords lined up with the track, you're going to want to incorporate the Old Faithful strumming pattern. If you're not familiar with what that is, go back and have a watch of the strumming videos in the first series of the beginner course, and that'll explain everything. But if you are familiar, this is a great song to try and implement it. So if I go between those 2 chords with that strumming pattern, you'll have this. So you can hear it starting to sound a little bit more like the song at this point. One other point I want to make with regards to the rhythm is that usually in this pattern on the last up strum, it's okay if you hear a little bit of open string noise while you're changing. If I slow it right down, and I'm going to over exaggerate it here so you can hear the effect, but this is what's really going on. So I'm going down, down, up, down, up with the fingers off, and then back down for the down strum. It's not really normal to try and play every single strum with every note in the chord. Normally the last strum or 2 are kind of sacrificed so you can get the change in. But if you play the strumming pattern smoothly enough and fast enough, you don't notice it at all. Have another listen. Just sounds like normal guitar playing, so don't worry if you have a little bit of that in your playing, it's what you should be doing. And I just want to give you one final tip on lining the chords up with the song, which is to use the bass line. Now I've had to take the capo off so I can play the right bass notes, but obviously keep your capo on for the chords. You should hear that the bass is playing two notes, a lower note and a higher note, like this. And essentially, the way you want to line your chords up is to have the D on the lower note and the E on the higher note. So it should be D to E, D to E. This song's got a little bit more of a kind of floaty, ethereal kind of sound to it. So it's not as obvious where the chords fit in conjunction with the song as the previous two tunes that we've just looked at. So using the bass line is absolutely the way to go to make sure that you're playing the right chord at the right time. And that is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. The next song we're going to take a look at is Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, and although there are not really any new elements getting added into this one that we haven't already seen in this video, the trick is that the chord lengths are a little bit longer, so you have to be a bit better at anticipating when to change to the next chord, which is something you absolutely have to get used to if you want to be playing songs properly. So that's mainly what I want you to focus on in this one. So for Born in the USA, we're back to capo on 2nd fret, and the two chords we're going to be using are A major and D major. But this time we're going to be doing 4 bars per chord. So it's a long time on each chord, but you have to nail the change at the right time. So it really is more of an exercise in anticipation, this one. Now we're going to be using the Old Faithful strumming pattern again, so it's going to be 4 Old Faithful patterns on each chord, which sounds like this. Again, absolutely fine if you hear a little bit of open string noise on the last up strum. That's totally normal and actually makes it sound better a lot of the time. In terms of nailing the chord lengths, you might have to count out the bars at first just to absolutely make sure you're changing at the right time, but try and get away from that as soon as possible. The next thing you should probably try and use is the melody, because he sings the Born in the USA melody twice on each chord. So if you think about that instead, you're starting with the A chord and you'll have Born in the USA, born in the USA, then D, born in the USA, born in the USA, then back to the A. So 2 Born in the USA melodies on each chord, that's probably a good way to think about it. But even after then, try and just get to the point where you're not having to think about it at all and just feel the changes naturally. That's a great skill and it'll make it a lot more fun to play songs doing it that way. So that is Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. And finally, the last song of the day is going to be A Horse with No Name by America. Great tune, this one, and although I've kept it to last, so technically the most difficult song in the list, it's still super simple to play. It just introduces a couple of new elements. There's a new chord that we've never seen before, and there's something slightly different going on with the rhythm, which I'll explain all about. You're always going to come across songs that introduce new elements, and I think it's a good idea to just tackle them head on and see how close you can get it to the original track. So let's take a look. So for Horse with No Name, as I said, we're going to be introducing a new chord, but the first chord is just an E minor, so you should all be quite familiar with that. For this second chord, all you're going to do is move each finger outwards. So second finger is going to move to the bottom string, third finger is going to move to the G string. So it's kind of like the fingers are just moving outwards from their starting position in the E minor. If you're using fingers 1 and 2, you can do the same thing. I prefer fingers 2 and 3. But it's exactly the same change. Now this second chord, you'll probably find that the second finger mutes the A string, and that's absolutely fine. So you're going to be hearing 2nd fret bottom string, muted A string, open D, 2nd fret G, and open top 2 strings. Now this chord does have a technical theoretical name, which we're not going to worry about today, but it's a type of D chord, so we're just going to call it the fancy D chord, and it sounds like this. So if we put that in the song, we've got the E minor, sorry, to the fancy D chord, Super easy change and really cool sound, and it's just them two chords for the whole song. Now the rhythm side of things is where this song gets really interesting. So the first thing I want to mention is that we're actually using what's called a swing rhythm in this one. Now a swing rhythm is essentially where you just delay the and, or in this case the upstrum, so that the beats aren't equidistant anymore. So the opposite of swung rhythm, which is what we've been doing so far, is straight rhythm, which sounds like this. Everything nice and equal. If we swing it, it'll sound like this instead. So you should be able to hear that the upstrum is just slightly delayed, and that creates that, that new feel. It kind of comes from the chunka chunka sound of a blues, like a... It's that sort of a vibe, but we're putting it in a strummy song instead. Try not to worry too much about the swung aspect of it. I played songs that were swung for years without having a clue what it was, and I was absolutely fine because I listened to the track and made sure that my rhythm matched the sound of the song. So if you do the same, you should be absolutely fine. So getting into the actual rhythm of the song then, in the E minor, we're going to have... So that's just down, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then when you move to the fancy D chord, we're going to be doing all the downs and all the ups. But the thing that really gives this its character is that you put the accent on the upstrums. So it just gives it a little bit of an extra kick, a little bit more energy, makes it sound pretty cool. So if we put those two halves together, we'll have this. You can hear how as soon as you put that rhythm in, it instantly gets you in the sound of the song. One more time for clarity, that was down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Really cool one, great one for playing along with, and that was Horse with No Name by America. So there are 5 songs which only use 2 chords each. Now with all of these songs, definitely put the original track on and have a jam along. Make sure that your strumming is in time and your chord changes match the sound of the song. Anything that you're struggling with, go back and have a look at that first series of the beginner course because everything should pretty much be covered in there. Remember, you can download all the associated materials and diagrams via my Patreon page through the link in the description, and all the lessons are nice and organised on my YouTube channel page, so feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along. But that's all for today. I'll see you in the next song lesson.